Major shakeup on the Florida Gator coaching staff, and what will the recruiting fallout be? In this video, I got Gators Online recruiting insider Keith Niebuhr. He's going to join me to break down the dismissal of UF coaches Corey Raymond and Sean Spencer and how it could impact UF's top defensive commitments. We're going to get into it, but first, UF fans, hit subscribe. There's a lot to talk about between now and early signing day. Make sure you're on board. Hit the subscribe button for me, please. Okay. Let's bring on Keith Niebuhr from Gators Online. And Keith, news hit Monday evening that major changes were taking place on the Gator coaching staff. What was the initial reaction from some of Florida's top defensive commitments and targets?
Yeah, it's never boring in Gainesville, Josh. And,
Nope.
When that news broke Monday night, we reached out to as many recruits as possible, commitments, kids that were targets. And they all kind of said the same thing. They were surprised, but that they were going to kind of take that wait and see approach, which I think is what you have to do if you're a recruit. You can't just have these knee-jerk type reactions. So a lot of them have been since been informed or talked to the staff about this stuff. Some of them hadn't at that time, but they're willing to wait it out and see what happens. But overall, just a lot of surprise. But as one target, Gregory Smith, 4-star safety, said, hey, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised in a sense. I mean, it's the business. And these kids are a lot more savvy sometimes than we think. They follow Twitter. They follow social media. They see that changes are part of the college football landscape.
Yeah, and, the Gators missed a bowl game, so there's going to be some fallout from that. And so far on the defensive side, Billy Napier's decided to make some changes, but I was on Gators Online message board on Monday, and even before the news hit, Keith, you posted a note that things could be heating up between Texas and top safety commit Xavier Filsaime. So what are you hearing today after his primary recruiter, Corey Raymond, has been fired?
Yeah, nothing really new, to be honest with you. Again, a little bit more wait and see, but we know that Texas has been pushing. He took kind of a surprise. I don't want to say, I guess it wasn't a huge surprise, but he snuck in a visit. Actually, Josh Snuck makes it sound like that he was being sneaky about it. Let me rephrase this. He took a visit to Austin last week, right? But he also ended up in Gainesville over the weekend. And one of their other defensive targets, a kid named Dylan Evans out of Texas, who's a Texas A&M commit, said, hey, the two people that were recruiting me the hardest were Florida's 5-star quarterback commit DJ Lagway and Xavier Filsaime. So, as of Saturday night, he was still recruiting pretty heavily for Florida, but Texas has made it appealing. His father, he lives in Texas. His father is in Texas with him. His mother's in Florida. He liked the idea of getting back to Florida, getting back to home where he had lived as a child. But Texas is making it interesting. They offered late in the game, so to speak, earlier this fall, but he visited. They're going to try to get him back. And, people seem to think that Texas has to be watched here, and we believe that as well. Now, I guess he is still telling other recruits that, hey, I'm in on Florida right now, but, things change fast. Again, Josh, it's going to be a case where he's going to want to see who his new coach is going to be, right? So if you're Billy Napier right now, you're telling him, look, don't worry, trust me, I'm going to hire somebody good. But at the end of the day, I'm sure Xavier is going to want to see what the situation looks like. Now, Billy Napier is going to be in his ear. The defensive coordinator, Austin Armstrong, is going to be in his ear. DJ Lagway and other commits are going to be in his ear. But ultimately, he's going to take a look at that situation and say, okay, how do I fit in with this new guy? And how do I click with this new guy? So it's probably going to be a battle. We thought it would be a battle before this, and now we're almost certain of it.
Yeah, Gator staff definitely in his ear already. And, he's saying and doing some of the right things, but you also know that Texas staff is going to be in his ear as well. So we'll just have to see how the next couple weeks go. But hey, UF doesn't have to hold out that much longer. Signing day is December 20th. All right, moving on. LJ McCrae, the #1 defensive lineman in America. At Miami, we know FSU still involved there. Two teams still trying to chase him down. What impact do you think the firing of defensive line coach Sean Spence will have on LJ McCrae?
Minimal. And I'll tell you why. For the simple fact that LJ McCrae, even though he's listed as a defensive lineman, Josh, Florida's been recruiting him as an edge, all right, like as a stand-up pass rusher. So what does that mean? Well, that means that Sean Spencer, the outgoing defensive line coach, wasn't his primary recruiter and wouldn't be his position coach. That's Mike Peterson, Gator legacy. Mike Peterson, who was an All-American with the Gators, long NFL career. and now is the edge/outside backers coach. So all along in his recruitment, LJ McCrae said, this is the guy I'm closest with at Florida, Mike Peterson. I think he likes Sean Spencer, but again, he wouldn't be his position coach and he wasn't his primary recruiter. And that's also a Billy Napier production too. That's also one where he's such a high value guy. Same with Xavier Filsaime. He's such a high value guy that it's going to be Billy Napier. It's going to be Austin Armstrong, the defensive coordinator, and then of course Mike Peterson. Those are going to be the primary guys recruiting him. And as of right now, Florida feels like it's got the momentum to hold him in the class. Josh, they didn't win those last few games. But anyone who watched that Florida State game could objectively take away from it that maybe the margin isn't as significant as records might suggest. So I think LJ McCrae is being sold on the idea that, hey, they're close. And we'll see. I don't know whether they are or aren't, but I think you can make that reasonable argument that they could be, and certainly a recruit could buy into that.
Yeah, it's definitely all hands on deck when it comes to LJ McCrae recruitment. Let's stay at Daytona Beach Mainland High School and talk about four-star safety Zay Mincy. He's uncommitted, one of the top uncommitted DBs, not only in the state of Florida, but also the entire country. His primary recruiter, Corey Raymond, he's gone. We already talked about that. Where do you think the Gators stand now with Zay Mincy? What does this do for his recruitment to UF?
Yeah, again, Josh, it's another one. It's just wait and see. It's just wait and see. But, it's funny. You're getting so many different – how do I say this? This has been one of those recruitments where you're hearing so many different leaderboards, I guess. I mean, Florida's one constant. Everybody seems to talk about Florida, but has FSU made a surge? Where is Alabama in all this? He visited there this fall.
Right.
Seems to have liked it. Miami. So you hear different things. There are some schools that think Florida's not as big of a factor as others. Obviously Chad Simmons, who works with us at On3, wrote earlier Tuesday that he thought he was hearing more chatter about Florida and Miami than the other schools. So, but again, with Corey Raymond leaving, we just don't know. There are some people, Josh, who think that he might want to follow LJ McCrae to school, so that would bode well for Florida. Yeah. But I think this is a guy that's not going to announce until January 6th, but he's going to make a decision before then. He's probably going to sign December 20th. He's visited Florida more than anywhere else. He's comfortable there. I feel like if they can get a new defensive backs coach and they click early, he could still end up in Gainesville. But I really, truly believe it's anyone's guess where he's going to end up right now. I don't know how anyone could follow his recruitment every day and say they have a good read on the polls, quite frankly.
Yeah, I follow it every day, and I do not have a great read on where Zay Mincy's going to go. But I do agree. I think Florida and probably Miami are probably the two front runners, and I'd probably say Alabama's that dark horse, the out-of-state team.
Sure.
If they can get him back on campus before the signing day, then maybe they do emerge as one of the favorites. But for now, I agree with you, UF and Miami. All right. While all this chaos is happening on the defensive side of the ball, on offense, the Gators are getting aggressive, and they are trying to flip running back Jadan Baugh, who has been committed to Arkansas, but they're in on him. What are you hearing? What's the latest? Can the Gators get this one done?
First of all, let me just say he's a really good player. I finally got to see him play, Josh, and I guess the phrase football player really applies to this guy. The game I was at last Friday night, I think he had, 14 touches, 285 yards, 3 plays of over 50 yards, a 90-yard touchdown run. He dove for an interception. He pass blocked incredibly well. I mean, the guy does everything. So he's a legit 4-star player, which On3 just moved him up to that 4-star ranking. So what do we hear about his recruitment? Well, he's visited Florida a couple times this year, most recently early in November for the Arkansas game of all things. And even though Arkansas won, he came away from that visit really feeling that Florida vibe. He plans to return the weekend of December 8th for an official visit. Florida feels like it has some momentum. People close to him absolutely view Florida as a legitimate threat. And people may say, well, Arkansas is not exactly coming off a great season either. No. What would keep him with Arkansas? Well, the running backs coach was one of the most well-liked people in college football, a guy named Jimmy Smith. And he once was the head coach at Ellenwood High School in Atlanta, which is only 6 miles from Jadan Baugh's school. So he knows the lay of the land in Atlanta. He's built a great relationship with Jadan Baugh. If Jadan Baugh sticks with Arkansas, it's going to be largely, from what we're told, because of his relationship with Jimmy Smith. But Florida feels like, again, it has some momentum. There's optimism, maybe even a tinge of confidence going into this official visit in a couple of weeks. I think they got a good shot. He's a hell of a player, too.
All right, well, a lot going on. I know you said it when you got on here, but you weren't lying. There is a lot going on when it comes to Gator recruiting. And Keith Niebuhr, thank you for dropping by today on the Inside Scoop, covering it all.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Josh. Thank you, man.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.